I'm understanding a little bit more and more, yeah. I've become sentient. I don't think we've ever been more blessed as wrestling fans to have all the options we have. WWE is firing on all cylinders. AEW's putting out awesome programming. You have TNA.
We're in a new era of wrestling, not just fans coming back, but new fans.
Yeah, what's great about being a new wrestling fan is you get to go back and watch stuff. My favorite match of all time is Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Royal Rumble 03 for the World Heavyweight.
Kurt Angle said he felt he wasn't allowed to talk about that match.
You have to separate the art from the artist. It'd be worse if you were condoning what he did and not the matches.
Can you cut an Andre promo?
Howdy, you are in heaven, but I am the king of the clouds. I run heaven. Macho Man being like, yeah, I don't even think it was that good of a match. Maybe if another company put a guy over.
Everybody does a macho, but how is yours so perfect?
Naturally, I have a deep voice, but also the key is...
So good to have you in here.
I mean, incredible. I'm saying it was crazy to meet you in the lobby because it's like when you meet someone off TV, because I love the podcast.
Oh, dude, thank you.
The episodes with Sasso, as I said before.
He's the best.
Will Sasso is king. I love the episodes, but you're like watching the podcast build into this thing where now you're getting breaking wrestling stories happen on your podcast.
And it's wild because all we're really doing is just like hanging out for an hour.
Yeah. And then someone takes that and they go, put it everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. You and Sam Roberts are the beat reporters of wrestling.
Kind of accidentally.
You guys are going to be like Woodward and you guys are going to break wrestling stories. You're like, you have your like Watergate. You guys come together and corkboard it.
And a lot of times, like, we're just like talking about like, oh, what happened when like WWE didn't renew your contract, or what happened when AEW didn't renew your contract. And then 5 minutes later, you're like, oh, wow, that sounds pretty newsworthy.
It reminds me of when you ask comedians about clubs they've worked, and if they don't like it, they go, guy's a piece of shit. And you go, what? And they go, there's no green room. There's no bathroom anywhere close. There's no good food. And you're like, damn, wrestlers get out of a company and they're like, they sucked. This is what they did wrong. And then I'm watching at home. And as a fan of wrestling, you love just hearing all of it. That's what I love about the podcast. You're hearing stuff where you're like, I didn't even know that. Like in interviews. It's great. And then it sends me down wormholes of the internet of watching matches.
But I'm sitting there also going like, oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
And I've been watching wrestling my whole life.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Yeah, it's great. I love when you like you've talked about being at WrestleMania 18.
I talk about it every single day.
It is probably the most jealous I've been of another fan being at an event. I would say WrestleMania 3 is probably the top one that I'm jealous if anyone was there and remembers it.
Sure.
But 17, 18, and 19. Because 17 and 19 you have Rock Austin, the best matches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, dude.
The funny thing, and I've told this story before, is my friends and I bought those tickets in like November.
Sure.
We were like online, like Ticketmasters, the second they went online.
Yeah.
We had a budget and we spent $135 Canadian.
Someone's punching a wall that went to Mania this year.
To sit in the 16th row.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And I remember like there was a part of us where we looked at the card initially, and you got to remember where the world was at in wrestling in 2002.
Yeah.
Where like the invasion had just happened and the roster was like way too bloated.
It got clunky.
Right.
I think as a wrestling fan, we thought that the invasion was going to be a lot smoother and without a hitch. And then you realize you're like, oh no, they really are just stacking another company on another company.
And they're also just burying all the WCW talent.
And we didn't realize all the guys we wanted to see at WCW were like, I'm staying home. I got these guaranteed contracts.
Right.
Why would I get out of this?
So it was the invasion, but it wasn't really the invasion.
Yeah. It's like if the invasion left their best soldiers at home and they go, you guys are getting paid. R&R.
We didn't get Sting till like 10 years later.
Yeah. At WrestleMania, in Santa Clara.
Yeah, 31.
Oh man, which was great.
So my friends and I looked at the card and we went, do we really want to go?
Yeah.
And I remember we asked a scalper right before we walked into Skydome. We went, how much would you give us for these?
What would have been the price?
I don't know. Because like my one buddy, Greg, was like, come on, man, it's WrestleMania. We got to go.
We're here.
Right. So, and it was cold. I remember it was cold. We just got off the GO train. We're standing there with the scalper and we said, how much for these? And he goes, I'll give you like $200. And I went, $200? I'm an 18-year-old college student. Like, $200? That buys a lot of beer.
Yeah.
And Greg goes, come on, man. Let's go.
You would have been regretting that the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Because even on paper, I remember the lead up to that match was like, I grew up a huge Hulkamaniac. Obviously, The Rock was the coolest guy in the WWE. I mean, just the character was incredible. But I remember at the time going like, well, I kind of wanted Austin Hogan. I remember being like a little burnt about not getting Austin Hogan, which they kind of referenced. And then it happened, and you were like, that's exactly what I wanted.
There were so many silly things in the buildup that I feel like we've forgotten.
Yeah.
Like Hogan hitting Rock in the back of the head with a hammer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What? They used to do stuff in the early 2000s where you'd go, that just ends the story. You just killed a guy.
With a hammer.
That's blunt trauma. That's blunt force trauma. The Rock promo where he cut on NWO when they first show up, where he goes through Hall, Nash, and Hogan. Unbelievable. I think it's when Hogan asked to take a picture with The Rock.
Yeah.
That
Picture with The Rock.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Those promos are so great. Those were like, they had magic backstage then. Like the ability to like the end of the Attitude Era of like floating into a promo and it just being unbelievable.
Hulk Hogan ran over The Rock with a semi-truck.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. And they would blow up stuff. What's funny is I was telling you before the podcast, I've been watching a lot of WWE Vault because you can go back and watch. Specifically, I've been watching Saturday Night Main Events from the late 80s when they have McMahon and Ventura on commentary because they're just like great together. McMahon does such a good job playing the like dorky commentator while Ventura's the heel, and it's great. But you forget about small stuff they used to do in the late 80s that I wish they'd bring back, specifically head clunks. We don't have enough head clunks anymore.
That's so true.
There's a great Savage Bret Hart match, which I was telling you about, Saturday Night Main Event, and there's a moment, Bret Hart's still in the Hart Foundation, and this is how early it is. They don't even have logos on their gear. They're just pink and black. And Anvil and Jimmy Hart are on the apron distracting Macho Man, and he fucking clunks them together, and I was like, there's a move we need to bring back.
Bring back the head clunk.
I thought as a child that worked. They did it in one of Hogan's movies, and I was like, well, that works. It's in wrestling.
So when did you start watching?
I think the story is my mom dropped me off. My parents dropped me off at a babysitter's, and they were watching WrestleMania 2. And they came back and
like
they were
live?
Yeah.
So you were 2.
I was like 2 years old. I was 2 years old, maybe like 2.5. I'm a little bit older than the rest. So I'm like closer.
Like you and I are a month apart.
Yeah. Okay. So were you May or July?
I'm May 83.
Yeah. I'm June 83. Yeah. So it was like, I was like 2 going on 3, I think, when it happened.
Right.
And
we are the same age as WrestleMania.
Yeah, it's great. Because every year you go, WrestleMania 42 coming up. It's great.
42 about to turn 43.
Yeah. But my mom said they came to pick me up, and it was just like, oh, we picked up a wrestling fan. And it was like, oh, I love Hulk Hogan. And it was because it was Hogan Bundy. And I was just like,
wow, yeah.
And then they got me for my birthday, the LGN, the like big wrestlers.
The Wrestle Buddy?
The big rubber ones.
Big rubber guy.
And I was just obsessed with them. And then I remember that Christmas, that was like one of my first memories. Christmas, they got me I got the ring for my birthday.
Oh my gosh.
But
were you guys rich?
No.
Jeez.
Middle class, baby. You used to be able to afford stuff. And then we got, the big gift I got for Christmas that year was the blue steel cage that you pressed on.
Goodness.
And it was like, I had that I think until like I went to college, that was just in the basement. And you just see the ring filled with the big LGNs.
So who was your guy growing up?
Hogan. I was a massive Hulkamaniac. I mean, 80s, growing up an American boy in the 80s, Hulk Hogan. Dad that wasn't around, Hulk Hogan. You're just like, oh, that's my dad. Yellow and red. Let's go. Drop the leg on him, brother. And then as I got older, I started really loving the way Bret Hart worked. And I thought Bret Hart was cool with the leather jacket and the long hair. But I think for me, it went Hogan, Austin, and then Savage when I got older. And I would start watching those matches being like, oh, he's the best.
Yeah.
He made everyone look like $1 million.
And I think that people like seem to only remember Macho Man for the promos.
Yeah.
You go back and watch his work rate in the 80s and 90s.
Watch this match with Bret Hart. What they do is they do an injury on Macho Man's leg. And remember, this was like the realest move back when I was a kid, when they would take the leg and slam it on the outside of the pole.
And Bret was so good at that.
Great at it. And what they did is Macho Man goes out, and I never noticed how scared Miss Elizabeth was all the time. She was always terrified to do anything. She has like Jamie Lee Curtis and Halloween energy the whole time. She's just like walking like, and it's the thing that I always thought it would be funny if like Macho Man was jump scaring her at home, and that's why she's always scared. You know, she's like, Randy, and he's like, I'm over here, and she's like, oh, because that's always she had like the, but there's a moment where she goes and she's like helping him, and he's like, my leg, and he takes his boot off, similar to what Dirty Dom and AJ Styles did, but he takes it off, and then Bret just works the leg, man. And Macho Man keeps the leg up the whole match, doesn't put his leg on the ground, and then the finish is great because it's like a finish where you're like, oh great, because you're like, how is he going to compete? His leg's busted. Dude, Savage was the man.
At what point in your life did you realize that you did an absolutely perfect Macho Man?
Thanks to my roommate Vic Garcia. He's a huge wrestling fan, and he's the one that brought me back. I had like 5 years of not watching wrestling, didn't have a DVR.
And it's funny, everybody has that story.
Yeah.
I mean, there's of course people that watched all the way through, but yeah. I feel like everybody falls off for a little while.
Yeah, mine correlated with drinking and partying. It was like, became 18, the Attitude Era ended, and I went to college, and it was just kind of this moment where you didn't have DVR. If you didn't catch Raw, you had to go either on the dirt sheets online, or you just like waited.
Borrowed your buddy's VHS.
That's exactly it. If someone didn't tape it for you.
Yeah.
So I just drank, and so from about like 03, around mid 03 to 07, 08.
Ruthless aggression.
I missed it. I missed the whole Ruthless Aggression era. But what was fun was my buddy Vic, who became my roommate in New York, stayed in it. So he'd be like, no, you got to watch Mania this year. You got to watch Mania. And I'd be like, all right. And then I'd come back in and I'd be like, oh, I'm back in. And then I'd go drink and party, and then I'd forget to watch. And then the second I got DVR, it was like Raw, SmackDown on the DVR every week, caught up.
So are you going back and watching old
yes,
stuff?
Which was incredible, especially when the network came out.
Yeah,
the network dropped, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go watch 03 to 08. And so I did the major pay-per-views and watched the storylines. I mean, Angle's best matches. You have like,
oh, for sure.
Michael's coming back in 05. So there's like all this stuff that I got to watch that I was like, damn, I missed great wrestling.
And that version of Shawn Michaels might be better than the 90s version of Shawn Michaels.
Which I didn't watch live. So whenever you get into that like argument with other wrestling fans, and you go, nothing tops WrestleMania 13 Shawn Michaels.
And you're like, but WrestleMania 25 Shawn Michaels.
Unbelievable. And that's when I was totally back. 25, I was watching Raw. I was following again. So you're like the Ric Flair match, all the Undertaker match. You're watching all that, and you're like, yeah, he's unbelievable.
And look, I don't care which version of Shawn Michaels you think is better, because like they're both incredible,
just unbelievable.
Right. So if you like WrestleMania 10 Shawn Michaels, or you like WrestleMania whatever Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair retirement match, great, cool. Yeah. The answer is yes.
But as I got older, those were the wrestlers that I started really liking, were the guys that just made matches look unbelievable for everybody involved. No one that looked like a superhero, just someone that looked like, damn, this could be like a real fight. These guys are scrapping. I was saying, I think my favorite match of all time, going back and watching it as an adult, my favorite match of all time is Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Royal Rumble 03 for the World Heavyweight. I mean, it's unbelievable. The reversals they do in that, you just watch it and you go like, it goes from a crippler into a ankle, and he was on your podcast saying
it's such a hard-hitting match too.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's guys that are working that you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, Kurt Angle said like he felt for a while he wasn't allowed to talk about that match,
understandably,
obviously because of what Chris Benoit did, but he's like, but that then rubs on my legacy of like, that's one of my favorite matches ever. And Chris Benoit was one of my favorite opponents. He brought out the best in me.
There is this tough part of life, and it just happens in a lot of different things where you have to separate the art from the artist. And there are matches of Benoit's where you're like, I mean, the shit he has with Guerrero, like that was so what locked me into WCW in the early days, was when they were doing that cruiserweight division. And I'm watching like Dean Malenko, like just work a guy's leg where I'm like, is this real? Because you're coming from the WWE, which is all big moves, big finishes. And then you watch Saturday night on TBS, you're watching WCW, and you're going like, well, hold on now. This guy's like hurting this guy's arm.
And saying you like Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit does not condone, does not say like, oh yeah, you know, it's what Chris Benoit did was terrible and awful.
It'd be worse if you were condoning what he did and not the matches. They're like, no, I want to put that over, and you go, no, that's the absolute wrong take to have. But if any rational person would go, yeah, that's disgusting what he did. But you go back and watch that match in 2003, and you go, how are these guys doing this?
Yeah.
There are moves where you're like, as a lifelong wrestling fan, that you're like, this is unbelievable. You know, there are modern matches that do strike that chord with me, specifically like obviously Omega Okada, but then I loved like the Omega Ospreay. Those to me were like, those were what I love about New Japan was New Japan for a while there felt like music in Williamsburg in like 2006, where you're like, oh, you don't know about New Japan. You're like, you don't know about Wrestle Kingdom. That was what Chris Jericho did, going over and having that match with Omega. It just brought in a lot of fans where you're like, oh, New Japan is unbelievable. And then you watch Ospreay climb the rankings.
Yeah. And
then that Omega Ospreay match, I was like, that might be my favorite match of all time.
I remember seeing Will Ospreay wrestle for the first time and being like, that doesn't seem humanly possible.
I mean, him and Ricochet.
Unbelievable.
You watch that match and you're like, holy shit, these guys are so athletic. That's what I want more of the old head bumps, but I also realize that we're in an era of like insane athleticism.
I just love that wrestling is a buffet.
Yeah, it's great.
I love that if you love the little red Jello cubes, they're there. If you like the guy carving the prime rib, that's a possibility. If you just want cheese and crackers, that's there too.
You can just go grab whatever. Just have soup if you feel like
sure.
it.
Macaroni and cheese is over here.
Yeah.
And I love that that's what exists on a wrestling card.
Well, also, there's this era of, I don't think we've ever been more blessed as wrestling fans to have all the options we have.
It is an embarrassment of riches.
And we're acting like rich kids. We're going like, I don't like this one and like this. And you're like, it's unbelievable we're getting this. We're getting like WWE is firing on all cylinders. AEW is putting out awesome programming. And then you also have TNA. You have indies that are great. I don't know. Like, I'm excited for Cardona, Killer Cross.
Me too.
Like, I'm like, fuck, he shows up, which also, him and Sasso, the Venturas.
Do you have a Ventura?
I don't have a Ventura, but do you know James Adomian?
No.
Hilarious comedian.
Enlighten me.
Unbelievable Jesse Ventura. Used to do a web series called Jesse Ventura's Conspiracy Theories. And back in the day in UCB, he would bring me on as Macho Man to do conspiracy theories. So that was where I used to do this thing with a cast member of Billions, David Costable, who's unbelievable. He played Wags on Billions. And I would send him voice memos of Andre the Giant doing conspiracy theories. So he'd just open I'd be like, the earth is flat. We've never been to the moon. And he'd be like, what is this? I'm like, why is the flag waving when there is no air in space? And he'd be like, dude, you can't be sending me this. The water is making the frogs gay. And he's like, what the hell, dude? I would just send him, we'd be like filming all day, and I would just want to send him Andre conspiracy theories, and I'd be like on the ride home because I thought it was funny.
Can you cut an Andre promo?
Hulk Hogan, you are in heaven, but I am the king of the clouds. Ask anybody, Hogan. I run heaven. Yeah, the 3 rematch. I don't think you're going over in heaven, brother. I think Andre's putting you down. Hulk Hogan, this is not a rainy night in Puerto Rico. Do you watch those like Puerto Rico matches?
Yeah, I
like,
watch everything.
When they're outside and they're like slipping around and you're like, this is so dangerous. There's no way they would have let modern wrestlers go out there and just like slip and like, I think it was like a John Studd Hogan match you can find where they're like, it looks like they're on ice and you're like, get them out of there. They're going to blow their knees.
This episode is brought to you by Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon makes high protein, zero sugar cereal and treats reinvented from your childhood because as you know, nostalgia is a special thing and a delicious thing in this case. Every serving of Magic Spoon high protein cereal has 13 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar, and 4 grams of net carbs. They come in nostalgic flavors like fruity, cocoa, and frosted. Magic Spoon's high protein treats are crispy, crunchy, airy, and an easy way to get 12 grams of protein on the go. They come in mouth-watering flavors like marshmallow, chocolate, peanut butter, and dark chocolate. Both are great on the go, or I love them pre-workout or post-workout, or hey, eat them as a midnight snack. Get $5 off your next order by going to magicspoon.com/CVV, or look for Magic Spoon on Amazon or your local grocery store. That's magicspoon.com/CVV for $5 off.
That's the great thing about wrestling is like the spectrum is so wide.
It's crazy.
Right.
It's crazy. And it's sometimes the most fun is being at a gym in New Jersey. I used to go, my buddy Pat Buck, who's at AEW, but I used to go watch Pat's promotion in Jersey with Sam Roberts. And you're like just in a gym. But on that match was like, I looked at that card recently because I saved it. It was like MJF, Anthony Bowens. It was like a bunch of wrestlers that are like, and we saw them just in New Jersey at like a gymnasium.
One of the coolest things about wrestling is how accessible it feels, especially on the indie level.
Oh, yeah.
So like if you're going to go see somebody at a local indie promotion this weekend, you can then go have a conversation with them at a little table and take a photo with them for whatever, 10, 20, 30, $40.
Go buy their merch.
Right.
From them.
And that's the coolest thing is like there's not this separation of like ordering from their website and then it gets filled by this warehouse. Like
you're buying the shirt.
Right.
You're asking a guy who just bladed and he's got like a thing and you go, do you have XL? He goes, let me look. Like that thing for the look back on the merch table. Hold on, let me see real quick. And you're like, oh, your bandage is leaking. It's just like coming in. He goes, sorry, I took a suplex on tax back there. Yeah, it's being a wrestling fan is like the tribalism online sucks to watch sometimes because you're like, guys, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
You don't have to you don't have to go out of your way to ruin a thing. Like in my career, I've been very, very careful to not get too involved with wrestling because I enjoy it too much as a fan.
You mean like to do a guest spot?
Well, I mean, more in like, there's been ideas of me like hosting a show about wrestling or something, or doing something more like a structured show about, and I'm kind of always just like, nah, can I keep that? Can I just keep that for myself? I just like going. I like watching it, turning my brain off on the road and watching. Like, I get so excited when I know there's like a pay-per-view and I'm on the road and my openers have to just sit there and watch like a laptop. Well, that's what happened with SummerSlam. I'm like in a comedy club green room watching SummerSlam on my laptop and they're like, you're up in 5. I'm like, hold on. I got to see who gets this. I love it. It's just like a thing where I'll love it the rest of my life.
I think at the end of the day, what seems to get lost online is that we all like the same thing.
Yeah.
We all like this beautiful thing called professional wrestling.
And you can give your opinions on it.
Sure.
Absolutely give your opinions. If you like this match or this match, but you don't have to go like, if you like this company, you don't know what the hell you're doing. And you're like, all right, boys, let's hang out.
And again, back to my buffet example here. You wouldn't hate the entire buffet if you don't like the chicken drumsticks they have on there.
Yeah, you're not going like, oh, that's not how you eat a buffet. And you go, well, how do you eat a buffet? You get exactly what I get. And if you don't like it, you don't like buffets. And you're like, shut
You don't even like food.
Yeah, you don't know how to eat. And you're like, I have to live, you stupid asshole. Of course I have to live. Yeah, it is funny though, thinking of like, if the internet was around, because you hear stories of wrestlers being like pretty, they're like entertainers.
Sure.
They're athletes, but they also have the like, they want to get over like entertainers. But like Macho Man on like the board being like, yeah, I don't even think it was that good of a match. It's just like, that's why he's all mad. He's just like, yeah. Well, maybe if another company put a guy over. Yeah, just talking shit.
Look, everybody does a macho, but how is yours so perfect?
I think it's how deep my voice is. I think
just naturally.
I think naturally I have a deep voice, but also it's the key is.
Break it down for us.
Back to my buddy Vic. We used to cut promos on each other about like roommate stuff. Where it'd be like, yeah, electric bill hasn't been paid. Yeah, gonna be a little bit of a problem. Gonna be a little bit of a problem when they shut the lights. That's the night that the lights went out in Georgia. Yeah, and it's all fingers for me. If I get the little finger wag, if I'm standing up, you'll see me grab my belt. But that's always the like. He was old school Macho Man promos, he just whispers in a whisper yell. And that's what I always thought was funny when I was little, where he'll just be like a dad getting mad, but he doesn't want to yell in front of his friends, where he's like, I told you to pick up your toys. Yeah. I told you to pick up your toys, and now they're all over the floor. Yeah. Just like, that always was what he reminded me of like a parent that wasn't trying to lose his shit in front of company. He's like, oh, yeah. Which one of you didn't flush? You ever see that video of that Scottish lady where she comes into the thing and she's like, which one of us didn't flush when you took a shite? And her kid goes, it wasn't me. She goes, well, it was one of yous. That's what I used to do. Macho Man doing internet memes like that, being like, which one of you? Yeah, disgusting. But I spit a lot when I do Macho Man, so I have to be careful when I do it.
It's all the fingers and the glasses.
Oh yeah,
adjusting the glasses.
I told your producer, because when you put the glasses on, you got to just grab them. It's all, yeah. And you can just do song lyrics. That's like a cheat code for Macho Man. If you can just do like,
give me some Taylor Swift, maybe.
Oh, I don't know Swift, but you can do like Rolling Stones. You're like, yeah, can't you hear me knocking? Yeah, on the window. Yeah. And you just do like random, like Guns N' Roses, where you're like, welcome to the jungle. Yeah. Yeah, welcome to the jungle every day. It is a fun one to do, and it's one where I love my fiance, but she's gotten to the point where she goes, oh boy, here we go. Like when it happens, she's like it's like it's almost like a seizure. She's like, here he goes. He's doing the Macho Man.
When did the internet find out about this?
I think it was Opie and Anthony and then Sam Roberts' show, because Sam was like a wrestling fan and he's like, dude, you do Macho Man. Great. And then I had this really cool moment. Damian Sandow does a really good Macho Man. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
When him and Axel did like the
when he was dressing up as all the different characters.
But he would do Macho Man, and then Curtis Axel would be Hulkamaniac.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that. They did like a Mega Powers run for a little bit. But Damian Sandow does a great one. I mean, Jay Lethal is the king. Jay Lethal does the best. Ric Flair and Macho Man. And we were on the Iron Sheik roast together. And it was like this moment where I was like, can I do my Macho Man for you? And Jay Lethal was like, yeah. Because he was doing Black Machismo on the roast. And I was like, I did it. And he was like, oh yeah, dude. And it was me, him, and MVP in the green room. Yeah, this is when MVP was in New Japan as the Intercontinental title holder. And we were doing the Sheik roast. And I have a picture on my laptop of me and Jay Lethal doing the Mega Powers handshake with MVP in a Japanese baseball jersey behind us. And I'm like, this is one of the coolest pictures I've ever had in my life. But doing that for Jay Lethal and him being like, oh yeah. It's like you play a guitar for a musician and they go, that is how you do it. And you're like, okay, I just wanted to know. But yeah, it was, doing the Macho Man was very fun. But the network came out and they were like trying to get comics in New York to come up and do talking head shows, just like random stuff. So I go up to Connecticut and they're like, can you do Macho Man? We're going to do you versus Damian Sandow doing like Macho Mans. And I'm like, it's just me, a producer, and a camera guy. And I film it. And we're done filming. We do a bunch of other segments or whatever. And this is one of the coolest moments. After that, we're filming, older camera guy. And he comes from around the camera. He goes, hey, man, I just want to let you know I've been working with the company since about 1981. It's the best Randy I've ever heard in my life. And I was like, I didn't have anybody to tell. I was like trying to I was just texting my buddy Dan St. Germain. I'm like, dude, this guy just said I did the best Randy of all. So it was awesome.
Oh, man.
And there was we wrote a cartoon. Me and my buddy Dan wrote a cartoon with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Peacock bought it and then eventually passed on it. But we got to do Zooms where I was doing Macho Man and Andre. Part of the cartoon was, the premise was Stone Cold Steve Austin works at a law firm. So it's called Stone Cold Law.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, every episode will work to the point where like, you don't know if Stone Cold's going to be in the courtroom. And then it's like, and the glass breaks. We had a mock-up of him in a suit with the knee braces over the suit and the vest over the suit jacket, and just comes in and, he's like, you have the jury going like, what? And he's like, Presley versus Ferguson says what? And he like argues the case like he's cutting a promo. But part of the show was he goes to this like other dimension that we called habeas corpus. And it's all dead wrestlers and dead Supreme Court justices arguing law cases. And that's how he goes to like find his case. So it's like Macho Man with Scalia being like, position is 9/10 of the law. Yeah. And he's like, I don't know. And doing that voice for Austin was like crazy for me.
Yeah, what did Austin think?
He's like, I love it, brother. He was like, God damn. Like the first time we did Zoom and he goes, God damn, I love it. And you're like, ah. This is a story. This is a story I can really only tell here because you would appreciate it.
Please.
Because it's entertainment meets wrestling. But we were pitching the show on Zoom. This is during COVID, so you couldn't go in person to pitch the show. So Steve, is like at his ranch on Zoom. He would always like show up on Zoom in a way that you're like, it's Stone Cold. He just like would like bloop bloop and pop up, and you're like, oh damn. I'm in my like at the time girlfriend's like guest room, and I'm like, hi Steve. That like Zoom wave, like hi. But we were pitching. It was to Cartoon Network, and we were pitching the show. So we had like written the show, and we were like trying to see who wanted it. And it was our first pitch, and we bomb. Me and Dan bomb so hard, like dry mouth bombing, being like, so then the show, he would argue these cases, and you're just watching the execs from Cartoon Network be like, nothing. And you're watching Stone Cold Steve Austin watch you bomb on a Zoom. In the meeting, we stop, right? And it's just this moment where Dan and I stop and we go, so that's the show. And you just hear Steve go, well, I don't know what the hell that is, but that ain't the show I signed up for. And then he goes through what the show is, and you watch the Cartoon Network execs like light up. And he's like, and then I'm arguing cases, and I'm breaking it down, and he's just like going through doing it. And then they sign off, and it's the three of us, and we're like, sorry, Steve, and he's like, hey, next time let's prepare, let's like have some bits or whatever. And he signs off. And then Dan and I call each other, and we're sitting there, we're so embarrassed because we bomb in front of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then I stop and I go, dude, we hot tagged Stone Cold Steve Austin. He came in and hot tagged the meeting, and it was like bam, bam, stunning him. And like, dude, it was one of the coolest moments of my life where you're like, oh, Stone Cold just cleared the ring. We were losing. We were getting our shit kicked, and then he came in. It was awesome.
Could this show ever see the light of day?
I don't really know if he would, like if Steve wanted to do it. I'll tell you a real Mark moment I had. He butt dialed me. And I called back immediately, too fast, to the point where I called back.
Hi, Steve. It's Dan. Did you try calling me?
To the so forth that Katie did the reach out thing. Went, no, don't call him yet. Like that. I went, oh, Stone Cold called me and I missed. And she went, don't. And I just dialed. I was like, and then he just didn't pick up because he was probably like, God, who the hell? But he was awesome. He was really cool to work with and really like open for very funny jokes. That was like the really fun part. It was like pitching him jokes and him being like, yeah, dude.
Do you still text him every once in a while?
No, absolutely not. In fact, we felt bad.
Hey man, saw you at WrestleMania 41. Thumbs up.
That beer looked delish. No, once it was like there became a point where we were like, we'll just deal with Peacock and we'll let Steve. It's kind of like that thing where you want to let him rest, dude. He's the man. And also he did that was when he did Mania with Kevin Owens. And it was awesome.
Oh, that was so cool.
And we did want to say something because Kevin Owens, the best.
So great.
The best. I mean, what I love about Kevin Owens is he's a guy that you watch that you go, he loves this shit. Him and Sammy love this shit. Best friends coming up. I can't say enough. He looks like my former co-host of The Bonfire, Big J. But Kevin Owens is the man. And he's a guy that I've loved since watching him on the Indies.
Does doing the macho voice hurt your voice? Like you can only do it for limited amounts of time?
I did it on a cartoon called Paradise PD for Netflix.
Yeah.
And they did like a dead Macho Man. And after I did that recording session, I went home and I was like, what the hell? Because it's so like guttural, like, yeah, very much a possibility. Yeah, the possibilities are endless. More cheese in the cheese. He just would say random. Macho Man talked like he was always coming out of a nap dream. Like, you know, in Step Brothers where he goes like, the clown has no penis. Like, that's how Macho Man talked. Where he'd be like, yeah, if Shamu can't fly, then why does he have wings? And you're like, I don't even know if that's real. I don't think that's a real thing.
I don't know how true this story is, but I heard someone say to Macho, like, hey, if you keep doing that thing with your voice, like, you're really going to ruin your vocal cords. He's like, what thing?
Yeah, what thing are you talking about? And even
This
his
is how I talk.
interviews with Lanny Poffo, he would say like, oh, that was just like his voice after a while. He was just grumbling.
That's wild.
Yeah, just talking to him. I mean, there are moments where he had to like call in a pizza order and they're like, is this can't be? He's like, yeah, you guys still doing a buy a medium, get a large for half off? And they're like, is this Macho Man Randy Savage? I just love hearing stories about him. Also, like the stuff with him and Andre Andre hated the baby oil, which was like a great moment in the Andre doc where Hogan said that, where he's like, "Hello, baby oil." It's fantastic. The Andre stories to me will never not be awesome.
Yeah, what a legend.
He just was always, and he seemed like funny, like a very funny dude. Like to have a thing where you're growing and it's uncomfortable all the time, but then to still be funny about it. Rules to me.
I feel like every wrestling fan does some variation of Macho Man,
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan, and Austin.
Yeah.
They might not be good, but if a wrestling fan goes, oh,
Yeah.
you know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Where they
Right?
go, dig it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
that
Hogan,
might be the only thing they can say.
they go, listen, brother.
Yeah. Let me tell you something, dude.
Yeah, that's the best.
Right?
And I never got a good, it was Sasso's Hogan. I'm waiting for the day we can do Mega Powers. We've DM'd about it. About doing his Hogan.
I should have both you guys.
Oh my God. I would lose it because his Hogan makes me laugh. When I listen to Dudesy and he does Hogan, I know Dudesy's not around, but like when he did Dudesy,
Yeah.
he just does, because what he does the funniest is he does social Hogan. He does like, all right, dude. He does the very like, I'm having a casual conversation Hogan, and that makes me laugh. And when he does the Rock, Deramana, that makes me, Sasso makes me laugh so hard because he can do them all. I can only do Andre and Macho Man. I want to learn how to do Hawk from LOD
That would be such a deep cut.
because he has my favorite promo of all time, possibly SummerSlam 91, right after the Mountie in the Big Boss Man loser spends the night in jail match. And if you want it, you can fast forward to it if you have Peacock or if you're in the UK, like on Netflix. 91 SummerSlam, right after the Mountie Big Boss Man. Jimmy Hart's losing it in the locker room. He's like, someone's got to pay, baby. And he's like losing it. And then it cuts to LOD about to wrestle the Nasty Boys. But they're cutting a promo on the Natural Disasters who try to jump Andre. This is when Andre's got like the hand crutches, and they like surround him at SummerSlam. The best part about LOD promos was that it was always Animal that started, and he would give the like that gruffy like, we're gonna kick the shit out of you, and then he ends it and he just goes, tell him, Hawk, and that's always where. And in this one specifically, Hawk goes, whelp, and he hits this whelp that's like a Minnesota accent that I can't get, and he goes, whelp, it seems to me that the Natural Disasters just bit off a little more than they can chew. And then he cuts the greatest promo where he's like, we'll see you down the line. And he ends it talking shit about the Nasty Boys. And he has my favorite line where he goes, because there's boys, there's men, and there's monsters. What a rush. And you're like, I want to run through a fucking wall. Like, if I watch that on the road, I'm just like punching the walls of a Hilton. It's unbelievable. LOD's promos, loved them.
There was something about those backstage promos back then.
Yeah.
They were just amped up, right?
Cocaine. It's like probably a lot of blow or something. But you see that and you're like, you'd be like an 8-year-old. Just like watching it home, like, and your mom's like, hey, did you clean your room? And you're like, not now. I need this.
John Cena just won his 99th PLE match when he beat Logan Paul at Clash in Paris. But did you see the odds on MyBookie before the match? They had John Cena as the favorite, which means you'd have a few extra dollars in your pocket if you bet on the greatest of all time. They've also got you covered when it comes to the NFL, college football, baseball playoffs are right around the corner, UFC, boxing. They've even got the Emmy odds on there. And if you're new to MyBookie, Use my code CVV and any bet that you choose up to $500 is fully covered. Make your play, and if it doesn't hit, you get it right back when you opt in using your Bet Back bonus token. Bet anything, anytime, from anywhere, only with MyBookie.
My buddy sent me a vintage clip. It was a behind the scenes, like we saw the whole countdown, 3, 2, 1, and it's Hogan cutting a promo, one take, with Warrior just standing there the whole time going, Warrior doesn't say a single word.
He didn't need you. He just needed to flex and breathe.
And it's funny because before, they're just both standing there.
It's so funny.
And then 3, 2, 1, oh, let me tell you something. He goes right into it.
Automatic. Hogan could just cut promos automatic. And then you see it like later in life. It's like, oh, he always is in promo mode now. Like as you get older, he's just always cutting promos. Warrior had the best deal of everybody. He just had to breathe and say nonsensical shit. He just had to go like, as I walk over the valleys. And you'd be like, this is unbelievable. I remember being like a kid and being like, trying to listen to see what it meant. He's like, the Warriors, they take my soul and they wrap it in iron. And you're like, what the fuck? It's funny to think of him and Macho Man taking naps and talking like that. He's like, yeah, dude, Warrior. And then he looked fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
The paint was awesome. Coolest gear. Like it was like early 90s aesthetic lightning zaps with neon.
Yeah, he looks like a bodybuilder that wrestled.
And then he just had the most amount of hairspray in before, like up to WrestleMania. Before he left the first time, his hair was so voluminous and like you could tell it was hairsprayed. And then he's just like, I am down the road. I love that. I love that it never made sense.
And then what an entrance song.
Great.
Sprints to the ring.
The best is
grabbing the ropes.
The best is watching. There's a DVD that they put out when the WWE didn't like Warrior.
I remember this.
The ultimate, the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior.
Yes.
Shout out Vic, my roommate. We had it and we would just drink beers and watch it. Bobby Heenan's story about Warrior working with Andre. Bobby Heenan is, first off, is owed credit from my entire generation of stand-up comedians. Because we watched Bobby Heenan all, like the ones that loved wrestling, will all self-admit. Like friends of mine that love wrestling, like Michael Che, Sal Vulcano, like the guys that we talk about, we're always like, oh yeah, Heenan was the funniest. He would just say stuff that you're like, Bobby Heenan's, but he's telling that story about Warrior working with Andre, and he's like, it was supposed to be a spot where Andre like whips him into the ropes and turns around and then gets clotheslined, but Warrior was doing it too fast. And he would hit on, like bump Andre, and he says Andre makes a noise where he's like, ugh. And then Bobby after the match that night, because they were like working the road, doing dark matches, and he's like, he's got to get that spot. And then Andre's like, don't worry, boss. I'll make it. And the next one, he puts him into the ropes and just puts his hand out. And he said the Warrior just ran right into Andre's fist. I mean, this is Bobby Heenan telling the story, but he said he cracked the makeup and he was like down, and then Andre just pinned him because it's just a dark match. And they're like, all right, well, I guess Andre's pinning Warrior tonight. But I love that. I love the thought of, I always loved, it made me love The Undertaker more because he obviously was one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time, coolest character. Also just like when you meet him, what a dude.
Yeah,
what like,
it's great.
I met him through Bruce Pritchard and he was just like the guy. You're like, you are who I hoped you were. But then you find out he was like the sheriff of the locker room and you're like, I love hearing those stories where they're like Undertaker, you know, even
Wrestler's
with
court.
Yeah. Of just kind of being like, he'll just tell you like, hey brother, the boys, like that kind of talk. Comedy needs that. We need more of that. We need an Undertaker to be like, too much crowd work, brother.
It feels like though there are a lot of similarities between coming up in comedy and coming up in wrestling.
Both carnies, or we're both absolute carnival performers.
But you're also like you're on the road. When you're starting out, you're doing it for very little pay or no pay,
or just for pure just promotion, just to get into it, just to learn how to do it.
You're listening to the crowd. Did this work? Okay, I got to work on this.
I think there's also a big thing of like wrestlers. A lot of times are wrestling fans, and a lot of times comedians are comedy fans. So they get into it and they go like, I remember this guy doing this and this. And, you know, I think there also is like borrowing Like you see comics take stuff that you go, oh, he got that from this guy, or he doesn't realize he's doing this guy. Because like you look at Billy Graham, superstar Billy Graham, and you're like, oh, he was the prototype for like the entire generation I grew up on, and I didn't know who superstar Billy Graham was. And then you start watching these old promos, and you're like, this motherfucker had everything. He had the rhyming, like you see a little bit of Billy Graham and Macho Man. You see a little Billy Graham and obviously Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
But like other ones. And you're like, oh, this guy just took all that stuff. And I think that's similar to comedy about how like certain comics can influence you. You know what I mean?
And like you go out there in the same way you would go out there to call a match. You think something works and the crowd is acting a little bit differently.
Got to shift.
And you got to do that in comedy.
Yeah, you got to address it in the room.
Or how often do you go, man, this joke crushed in New York, but will it work in Florida or
all
will
the
it work
time
in Ohio?
And you try to see if your closing joke is like your finisher. And you're like, how do I build it up and then finish where there's a pop? You want a pop where you want to get the crowd in. And it really is the relationship with the crowd and how guys do it. Certain guys do different stuff. And I also do think the shit talking is probably pretty similar.
Sure.
Like we're like, yeah, he's doing a lot of like crowd work is the way they go like, he blades every match. It's like he's getting color in every match. And you're like, hey, there is a similarity. I would say I don't compare it because those guys are beating the shit out of themselves every night. And our egos are getting bruised every night. Where you go, you don't think that's funny? I thought it was funny.
When talking about the finisher in comedy, we've all been to the show where the comedian lands their last joke and they go, well, I'm Chris Van Vliet.
You can't do that in wrestling.
Oh,
you can't hit your finisher and go, I guess I'm going to hook the leg. Like you begrudgingly hook the leg. I'll get out of here. But yeah, there are like, sometimes you do your finisher and there's no pop. And
what do you do when you get heckled? Like, because I'm sure it happens frequently and like somebody's trying to make the show about them.
Yeah, you give them receipts. No, that's sometimes what I think of, like the old school clips of like, there's one where a guy jumps in the ring and on Nitro and Scott Hall beats the hell out of him with Kevin Nash, which is a great clip. But that's kind of what it is where you go like, all right, I'll do some talking back and forth. Like kind of like when a heel's walking to the ring and someone's yelling and they yell back a little bit and then you go to the ring. But then if they jump the barrier, they're going to get receipts. Then you just kick them out, or you just like, you're like, I don't want you here right now.
Yeah. Because
we're all trying to enjoy something.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get, it's how a wrestler must feel. It's like, you're trying to get actually violent with me. I'm not being violent.
Yeah.
We're having a match. And they're like, no, and they come over and you're like, but I could get violent with you, and that's kind of what it is like with a heckler where you're like, I'll give you a little bit. But if you start messing up the show, well, then now we got a problem.
Yeah. No one paid to see you in the crowd, buddy.
There's a thing that I saw the late great Patrice O'Neill do, which is a move that I use, similar to like taking stuff from Billy Graham.
Yeah.
But Patrice O'Neill would do this thing where he would ask how many people are in the group if they were heckling, and if they wouldn't shut up. He'd go, how many people are in your group? And they'd say it, and he'd go, great, I'm gonna pay for your bill. And they're like, hey, and he'd go, okay, now leave. He goes, I paid your bill, get out of here. And I've done it like probably 4 or 5 times, and it works incredibly.
That's a great move. And then I'm sure there's tons of applause too.
Well, because what you're doing is you're removing the leg for them to stand on of I paid to be here. It's like, well, sure you did, but now I'm paying for your drinks, so there's no problem, and you can leave.
What a move!
And then the people around go, thank you. They would not shut the hell up, because that's what you're kicking out. I don't care about people screaming out, because you can make that funny. It's when people are talking and they're ruining a part of the room where people are trying to listen. And you're like, just don't do that. Don't ruin the show for other people. If you want to talk, get up, go to the bathroom and talk. Don't like in the room, because then people are doing like, when you see audience members do that, where they go like, and that's when you're like, might you have to come in the crowd? Might have to get violent, brother? And it is, that's when they hop the barrier. That, to me, in my mind, is them hopping the barrier.
The concept of what you do for a living, when you break it all down, is wild.
It's wild that anyone pays us to do it.
But like the fact that you stand at the front of a room with a microphone,
sure,
and you talk, and like,
see, to me, I'm like, I feel like I'm just getting one over on everybody. I'm like, you guys just letting me do that? I should be working somewhere doing this in the back.
What a profession.
Yeah, but like I'm more amazed with mechanics. I'm like, you can build an engine? You can just put an engine together? And they're like, yeah. And you go, yeah, screw the dumb shit I'm doing. Look at what you're doing. Like a small business owner to me is someone where I'm like, you just had an idea and you created a business. That's the people, like, I truly think those are the people we should be like. It shouldn't be actors and actresses. It's easy to put on makeup and pretend you're British. It's hard to run an exclusive Cinnabon store, or like it's hard to sell bracelets.
You're doing the same thing though, because you're taking an idea, a concept that's relatable to the masses, and you're distilling it down into a digestible and funny dialogue. Yeah,
I mean, for me, I think it's just more like I just want it to be funny. That's all I've ever cared about. It's just I really love being funny, and that's why I loved comedy so much, and I loved comedy in a way that I was like, I just want to be a part of it. I just want to see if I can do it. And if I can do it, then this is the greatest thing ever.
So what was the moment where you went, I think I can at least try?
I lived for a summer. I stayed for a summer with my aunt up in Alaska, up in Kenai, Alaska. And I worked at a fish cannery for a summer in between my freshman and sophomore year of college. And it was like the hardest work I've ever done. You're working like 16 hours a day. I worked on the dock crew. I wasn't out on a boat, but I worked at the cannery with like dudes, like guys my age, but they were like, I was like a soft-handed little lady man from Colorado. Like they were blown away that I couldn't do stuff where they were like, hey, can you change? They'd be like, hey, change the hydraulic on that crane. And I'd be like, pardon me? And they kind of realized like, oh, but my value, just like in high school football, my value was I was very funny. And so I was like a tension breaker. Like I would just be the clown. I loved football. I sucked at it, but I was very funny. And at football camp, I'd do prank phone calls and shit. And they'd be like, oh, this guy's hilarious. And then in Alaska, we'd sit around at lunch and I'd just be making these guys laugh that I didn't know in a way that I was like, I should try. I should like maybe try. And then I asked my aunt. We were watching Daniel Tosh on Comedy Central. It was one of his hours, and I love Daniel Tosh. And I just looked at my aunt. We were smoking cigarettes inside. I remember that specifically. We were smoking Marlboro Lights, and I was like, you think I could do stand-up? And she didn't even like blink. She was like, yeah, absolutely. And that just kind of like having someone that is in your family go like, yeah, you could do that. And then I went back to school at Arizona in Tucson. And then like, I think a couple months later, I finally got the nuts to go try an open mic.
So, and then from that point, were you hooked?
No, I did it once and I just riffed. I didn't know
you didn't have anything prepared.
No, I didn't know. I kind of knew that, but I didn't know. I watched a lot of comedy, but I didn't actually understand what the process of joke writing was. Yeah. I thought you had an idea and then you just expounded on it, like cut a promo pretty much on stage about it. And so I had like 3 topics that I wanted to talk about. And I did my first open mic and it went like great. It went like great. And I was like, oh, wow. But I blacked out. I didn't know how I did it or what I did. And then I bombed for like 5 weeks in a row. Eat shit. Did not get a laugh, I think, any of those open mics. And I worked at this radio station at KFMA, and there was a comic that was on the morning show. He's passed away, but Dave Ashley. And we were at a work dinner, and I similarly to like, I went up and I was like, hey, I'm doing open mics and I'm bombing. And he's like, are you writing jokes? And I was like, well, I have like ideas. And he's like, no, you have to prepare. And that was the moment where I was like, oh, I have to write jokes. And that really started me like sitting down, writing, learning how to write, watching comedy different to see what the writing of a joke was. And then I went back and I started just doing open mics. And then it was like, from there, I didn't stop.
But there's a lot of people that would give up. They would bomb once and go, well, guess it's not for me.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like, it's like probably in wrestling, taking a hard bump. You just take a hard bump and you go like, all right, well, do I like it or do I want to stop doing it? And there was just never in me, I was like, this is so fun. Because when it's good. It's like great. And then I also really love comedians. I like being one of the boys, like in the locker room. Like I really do love it. I love talking about it. I love breaking down comedy. There's like, to me, that's why what I was saying earlier about wrestling fandom is so important to me. I want to keep that fandom because comedy, it is hard on comedy fandom when you're in it, but I still love it. I love when a new special comes out and I get to watch it and I haven't seen whoever's run any of that material. So you're like, it's like watching it must be how wrestlers watch other companies' pay-per-views where they go, they're going to do like, I imagine people in the WWE watch the Swerve Strickland, the All In it was unbelievable. Like at Hangman Page and Moxley, like that finale, like just matches like that where you got to probably watch your buddies and go, I haven't seen him work in a while. And you go, this is unbelievable. I love this.
Getting a great night's sleep is one of life's finest luxuries. You got to check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. They're inspired by NASA and they have silver infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Also, say goodbye to those gross odors. Because they're infused with silver, they prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth. So that means you get fresher sheets up to 3 times longer. Miracle sheets are so comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands, and they feel just as good as sheets you'd have in a 5-star hotel. If you've tried everything else, try Miracle. Upgrade your sleep this year by going to trymiracle.com/CVV. And whether you're buying them for yourself or you're buying them as a gift for a loved one, you're already going to save over 40% if you order today. But if you use the code CVV at checkout, you'll get an additional 20% off plus a free 3-piece towel kit. That's trymiracle.com/CVV.
Where do you look for material? Like what is it just in the world?
Yeah, it's whenever I have an emotional reaction, whenever I'm wrong emotionally, which was a lot, but I'll do something stupid and I'll be like, I feel really embarrassed. I should write this down. And then you go like you learn how to turn that into something.
Is it just a notes section in your iPhone?
Yeah, I like a Psycho. I have one of those. I carry around, but then I also have
an actual notepad.
Yeah, which I was joking with on another podcast about this, but you look like a psycho when you write stuff down now.
You look like you're going to write tickets.
Yeah, where I go, all right, let me bill you for that. But then you write down your jokes and you have
look at that.
Yeah, you just kind of have ideas. And what's great about it is like something won't work for a while, and then you'll be like writing and you'll look at your notes and be like, I forgot. That's actually like a good idea.
Like you'll find the unlock.
And then it'll work.
Huh.
And then you try it. Like, I worked the Comedy Cellar in New York City, and Mondays is New Joke Night, hosted by this great comic, Wilson Vince, who does a great job of like bringing you up. The audience knows you're trying it. And then afterwards he comes on stage and talks to you about like and sometimes it's like really helpful because in conversation, you'll say something and you'll go like, I never even thought about that angle. And then you try it again and it works. And you're like, wow.
Do you feel it's easier to put actual pen to paper rather than
I'm
typing
a mix.
it on your phone?
I like both. I like the phone is in the moment of don't forget this, but then I like sitting down and like for an hour trying to hammer out stuff.
Yeah, there's something about that connection of your brain to your hand of like actually forming the letters and writing them out.
I have like a huge Word document that's like 200 pages of because every day you just sit and just have like a diarrhea dump of the brain and be like, I'm thinking this. And sometimes I'll go back to like 2022 because I have it all dated and I'll be like, oh. And what's really fun is sometimes you'll see ideas that I know now later have come together in a long bit. So you're like, oh, that idea was never connected to this idea. And then when I put them together, they worked.
What do you think is the biggest difference between someone who's new, they're a year-ish in, and someone like you who's been doing it their whole career?
I think it's stage time and comfort on stage and comfort with themselves. I think like the thing I regret the most about being a young comic is, it's what they say in wrestling, slow down in the ring. And I think on stage, you're just like, you want to get the laughs as fast as possible. And I don't think I relaxed enough. That was like when I was 20 years in, I was finally starting to be like, even if this is a bad set, okay. But when I was young, I was like, they all have to be incredible sets and the best set anyone's ever seen in their life. And then you would bomb and you would like really take it hard. But now you go like, we screwed up. I see where I screwed up. I could have done this. I should have changed the set. But you're not like as tough on yourself.
I noticed like seeing an opener versus seeing like the main comedian
Yeah.
and how smooth the transitions were
Yeah.
from a veteran comedian.
It's
versus
really
like the opener going, so I was at the airport the other day.
Yeah.
Anyone been to an airport?
and what's great is like being friends with comics that I grew up idolizing. Sometimes you get notes and you go like, oh, that works. Like I got lunch with Colin Quinn and he was like, sometimes you should just act like you're enjoying yourself even if you're not. And I was like, well, that's stupid. And then I did it and I was like, he was right. Like in my head, I'm like, you could feel the audience like adjust. And it's like, I'm sure there's wrestlers that have tips for younger wrestlers where they go, if you really want to fire them up, do this. And they'll pop. And you go like, oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't know you did that. You make that look natural. And you go, yeah, I just do it. And it's like, that's what I love about comedy that I think is very similar to wrestling is there's like little tiny tips about how to get over on stuff.
I'm just blown away that you can go on stage and know everything for an hour. There's no ums or ahs or searching for the next word.
I think there are, but you don't see them. It's like the way that now I really notice when I watch wrestling matches when they lock up.
And I love that everything comes back to wrestling. It's
It
the
is.
best.
It
It's
is.
the best.
But when they lock up and they're like, and you see them say the move, that's like when a comic will be like, what's going on here? What are you guys doing that? You're like, oh, you're thinking, you forgot your bit. And you want to go like, oh yeah. Anyways, they'll just go right back into it. You're like, all right, now they're back in their bit. But you could see it. If you watch and you know the comic, you're like, yeah, they forgot where they were going with that.
Who are your all-time greats in comedy?
I mean, that's tough. I think doing a top 5 isn't justice.
Sure.
I think a top 10, for me, my favorite of all time is Dave Chappelle. I think Dave Chappelle is the greatest stand-up comedian of all time. I think he's got the work to prove it. I think the library of stuff he's done is just proven. And then I think second for me is Carlin. And then I can't put numbers. And then in no particular order, I would say like Louis, Burr, Attell, Maria Bamford, Patrice O'Neill. There's like a lot of guys that I watch. Greg Giraldo, just guys Colin Quinn. Colin Quinn's a guy that I think is still doing awesome work and like evolving.
Legends.
Yeah. And it's fun to watch those guys and get older and then like bump into them. Always back to wrestling, but there are like these WrestleMania 18 moments where you're like, holy shit, I'm on a lineup with fucking Louis C.K. And you're like, this is crazy.
So to bring this back around full circle, so WrestleMania 18 is the moment where I'm like, I can't believe I was there. I can't believe I saw that. What's that moment in wrestling for you?
Oh man, as far as wrestling goes, I don't really know. I got to be at SummerSlam and watch AJ Styles Cena in 2016 or 2017. And I also got to watch, I think my wrestling moment for that was watching Finn beat Seth for the first red belt when he injured his shoulder.
Yeah.
When I watched the Demon beat Seth at SummerSlam. That was one of the coolest moments I've ever been to live.
If you had a time machine, a DeLorean.
Yeah. Hitting 88 on them hoes.
If you could go back to any wrestling match or any wrestling moment, where would you go? What would you want to see?
Steamboat Savage, WrestleMania 3, Intercontinental title. I mean, that is the best match of all time.
And I don't know if you'd know what you're seeing when you're seeing
I know I said Angle Benoit is my favorite match, but the amount of times I've watched Steamboat Savage, it's just perfect.
It's so good.
It's a clear heel versus a clear baby face, and they just are like, the way they work off each other is unbelievable. And also, you think about it, being at the Pontiac Silverdome, largest wrestling event ever, and just like, you don't know what you're seeing, but you know you're seeing something special. Everyone's waiting for Hogan Andre. So to be waiting for Hogan Andre and then to have Savage and Steamboat come and steal the show.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my God. That must have been so exciting to watch that match and know you still have Hogan Giant. You still have Andre Hogan.
Yeah.
That's like when you wake up for work and you realize you still have an hour and a half you could sleep, where you're like, oh my God, I'm so lucky today. Just knowing that you still have the main event after you watch Savage and Steamboat.
I thought it was 8 o'clock, but it's only 6:30.
Oh my God, I love this. I'm going to roll back over. I'm going to put a pillow between my knees, and now I'm absolutely going to sleep more. But yeah, I would say WrestleMania. What would be yours?
I would love to be there for King of the Ring 1998.
The promo.
No. Hell in a Cell.
Oh, that's Mankind Undertaker.
Yes.
You're right. When was the Austin promo? 97?
96.
96.
I think.
Yeah, Hell in a Cell. The thought of going back to not knowing what you're witnessing, but the moment where he tosses
out of nowhere. And that's the thing. It's out of nowhere. They're not teasing it. He's not teetering on the edge.
Yeah, he doesn't do the
no.
Come back.
It's just out of nowhere. Undertaker just grabs him and throws him, and we're like,
yeah. And then
did we just witness a murder?
You expect the pay-per-view to go off the air. You expect them to go like, guys, we have to, something really bad just happened.
And like watching the pay-per-view, you can tell that Lawler and JR have no clue what's going on. They're like, they're raising the cell and Undertaker's still on it.
Yeah.
And you're realizing they're raising it so they can get the stretcher in there.
That is crazy.
But
yeah, through the top, like Undertaker staring down at him.
And
that iconic shot.
And it's clear the match is over.
Yeah.
And Foley's on the stretcher. And you can see him fighting everyone off to like go back and not just go back and continue the match, but go back to the top of the cell.
I'm going to rewatch that because we've had so many Hells in a Cells now that you don't realize that people didn't know what they were seeing.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, a steel cage match. Oh, but you're going to chain the top, which WCW fans remember from being from War Games and it going horrible when they try to suplex and the legs kick up. If you watch an old War Games when they had the cage on top, they could barely do moves because it was like right on top. So then they do Hell in a Cell is like so high up and you're like, oh, this is great.
So it'd be that or Bash at the Beach 1996 because no one would see Hogan being the third man.
Would you have thrown stuff?
I think I'd have to.
Everyone did.
I think I wouldn't be one of the first people to throw stuff.
I mean, the amount of bring back paper cups because paper cups being squashed and thrown, that's wrestling to me. A Pepsi paper cup crushed and thrown at a heel in the middle of the ring. I know we did the streamers from Japan and that got on in the Indies.
Yeah, Ring of Honor does it. Yeah.
Great. Bring back paper cups so we can toss them at heels. It's so fun, and it doesn't hurt the guys.
There's nothing better than that incredible aura moment of Scott Hall getting the Diet Coke or whatever it is thrown at his head, and he just uses it like hair gel.
Yeah,
walks towards the camera.
What a badass. Also, great Bobby Heenan moment is... If you're a Hulkamaniac, we're the same age, and you grow up a Hulkamaniac, that turn at Bash at the Beach, you get Bobby Heenan vindicated. Bobby Heenan goes, I told you. The second that Hogan turns, well, he also does the what side is he on?
Which just, I mean.
Come on, Bobby.
Come on.
Come on, Bobby.
Ruined it.
Come on, Bobby. That was like
what do you mean, whose side is he on? It's Hulk Hogan.
That was like when Arn Anderson recently, when Roman came back, and Arn told Cody, we're going to have some help, and you're like, so Roman's here. And everyone, like I remember watching that pay-per-view being like, so Roman's in the back. And then they're like, Roman's here. And you're like, Arn, you son of a bitch. But yeah, when Bobby goes, what side is he on? And then when Hogan turns and Heenan has his moment where he's like, I've been telling you this guy's a horrible guy. And you're like, Heenan's right. Bobby was right the whole time. That blows your mind as a kid because I think we're 13 at that moment. And you're like starting to go through puberty and you're like, hey, maybe Heenan wasn't the bad guy. Maybe the Heenan family really was. I mean, it was diverse. You had King Kong Bundy and Haku. Yeah, I think that's a great moment. The forming of the NWO.
Yeah, and it's not just the heel turn, which I think that is the greatest heel turn of
the
all
most
time,
surprise,
of course. But it's the payoff afterwards. Like here we are, almost 30 years later, we're still talking about the NWO.
It was, because you know what it was? It felt real.
Yeah.
There was a reality of like, well, I know these guys. That's Razor Ramon and that's Diesel and that's Hulk Hogan. And what are they doing? And the idea that these WWF, at the time WWF, guys would come over and try to ruin the company made sense. Yeah. It just all lined up perfectly.
Yeah, and the lines were still being so blurred at that point in time. Like this is 96, 97, then into the Attitude Era, and of course the Monday Night Wars at that time. The lines were so blurred of like what's real and what's a storyline.
Yeah, am I watching a work? And the way that Tony Schiavone would sell it when Hall and Nash first showed up and they were just sitting there in just like regular clothes, he goes, I know those guys. Because I remember being like at home doing the Leo meme where you're like, That's Razor. And you go, that's Razor and that's Diesel. What the hell are they doing there? And you don't know, now we all know about the curtain call because of the internet.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that because that was a house show at MSG. So no one, I'm in Denver, I'm in Aurora, Colorado. I don't know about they were leaving and they all broke kayfabe. I have no idea about that. I just know Diesel and Razor Ramon are now in WCW. I didn't even know they were leaving the company.
Yeah.
That's why it worked. Because for a lot of us, there wasn't the connective of the internet of, now I know when guys' contracts are running up. There's like a countdown to when someone's contract is going to run up. Back then, they just popped up like Lex Luger. Just pops up on Nitro.
Wearing a pirate shirt.
Yeah. And you're like, okay. But that was that kind of surprise, which they did recently with Rusev.
I think they still exist more
They
now.
can do it.
They exist more now than people like to give them credit for.
Yeah.
People like to say the kayfabe's dead. If kayfabe's dead, why were you questioning whether Seth Rollins' injury was real or not?
Why were you questioning if Karrion Kross was going to take his contract or not?
People are still questioning that.
Yeah.
If kayfabe's dead, shouldn't you know the answer to that?
Sure, you should know that he's doing it. And then there's the people that act like they do know when they're still guessing.
Right.
They go, well, he was doing this because of that. And you go, I don't care. I'm excited to see Cardona Cross. I just love that he showed up. And I love that. I love that there's like, because of the internet, you can now follow guys easier.
Yeah.
Where it was like kind of harder. When MVP went over to New Japan and started wrestling, it was like, I would like see in Pro Wrestling Illustrated, like, oh, MVP's in Japan now. But now I can just watch New Japan.
There still are a lot of legitimate surprises in wrestling. Like John Moxley showing up at the first Double or Nothing.
I was there.
Me too.
It was great.
Look
in
at
Vegas,
us.
That was awesome.
Wow.
And
did you cry during the Cody Dustin match?
unbelievable. It was I'm an only child and I wanted a brother at that moment more than anything. And it was that match, Cody Dustin Rhodes at All In Vegas that first year. Oh my God. And Jericho.
Double or Nothing.
Double or Nothing. Yeah. And Jericho Omega was unbelievable. That whole pay-per-view was great.
So great.
And there was a moment where we were with a bunch of comics. We were supposed to do the Ric Flair roast that weekend, but he had heart trouble, so they recanceled it. So, but we still got tickets to Double or Nothing. So we were like, there's a bunch of comics there. It was like me, Mike Lawrence, Dan St. Germain, Ron Funches, and we're all hanging out. And we go backstage after the pay-per-view, like in the meet and greet area, and we're talking, and then JR walks by, and we all get quiet. And as he walks by, you just hear Ron Funches go, man, we're fucking nerds. He goes, we all just went quiet like the president was walking by, because we're all like, as JR walked by. But that pay-per-view, Moxley showing up, which, again, like you said, there were rumors, but everyone was like, I don't think so. And then he shows up and DDT's Omega on the casino chips. Yeah, that was great. That was, I love wrestling.
I love wrestling.
It's the best. We get to go and like, we just went to the Raw after SummerSlam and I just loved it. I was like, man, I wish I went to more wrestling.
The thing I love about wrestling the most is when you find a fellow wrestling fan, you instantly become best friends.
It is. I was on the road opening for some of Shane Gillis's arena shows, and we were in Cleveland. And with Shane, he's so famous now that athletes just come to the shows. Like, he doesn't have groupies. He has like athletes. So you meet like the offensive line of like, you know what I mean? The Browns, instead of meeting, like, it's not like hot girls. It's like guys that can pass pro. You're like, it's not a hot chick, but I can get 6 seconds in the pocket if I need it. So we're hanging out and we're in Cleveland and we do the show, and the Kansas City Royals are playing the Guardians. And we get done with the show, and it turns out the Royals, after they had a day game, they came to the show and they're hanging out. And I'm backstage talking to, some of them, and Vinny Pasquantino and I start talking about wrestling. He goes, you're a wrestling guy? I'm like, I'm a wrestling guy. And it was like, well, there goes 30 minutes. We're like, oh, how do you think Mania is going to go? I think it goes like this. We were like trying to predict what was going to, this was before WrestleMania, what we thought night one was going to be and night two. And then just immediately you're like, well, I know something we can always talk about.
And you feel like you have to apologize to everybody else. I know you understood nothing of what we were talking about.
What's crazy is when you're talking wrestling with like a pro athlete, you kind of don't feel that because you go, well, he likes it. If I'm talking about it with like another comic, I go, hey, let us nerd out. But with like a pro athlete, you're like, well, this guy just went yard today. So you want to talk to him? That guy just went oppo. Why don't you talk to him?
There's nothing better than seeing someone who's like uber successful in another venture.
Yeah.
Whether that's sports or it's comedy or it's movies or whatever. And they're just as nerdy about wrestling as we are.
You know what blows my mind? Rick Rubin, huge wrestling fan.
I had no idea.
Huge, loves
Really?
it. Loves it. Thinks it's unbelievable.
Rick Rubin needs to come on the show, I guess.
I would watch that interview. I will watch that interview when it happens. But that's what I love was when you find out you're like, oh, you love this shit too. Because then you can just talk about stuff and it's all like excitement. You're just like, what about this match? And you're like, oh, this. And that's what it was when Vinny and I were talking about it. You go, I think night one, maybe they do the title like this. And it's like, it's just a fun thing. And what I love about wrestling fans is we all go through the moment where everyone makes us feel bad about it. Where they go, you like wrestling? And then as you get older, I would say that to the teenage fans watching this, if they're still watching, there will be a moment where you learn how to stand up for yourself. And you go, I do like wrestling. And then people go, oh. Like now when people go like, I remember this specifically. I was on the road promoting shows and I had to go do morning radio, which was like a thing. Sometimes you still do, but you'd have to go to promote the shows. And before the show, before we go on the air, one of the producers on the show is a wrestling fan. And he's like, you're a wrestling fan? And he's like, oh, that's what he said. He goes, did you watch SmackDown? This is when SmackDown was still on Thursdays. And I was like, oh yeah, dude, great. AJ Styles, blah, blah, blah. And we go on the air and it's like this, I'm not going to say what city he is, but he's a hack. And he's like one of these guys that's like, all right, coming up, we got Dan from Billions. We got Dan Soder who's going to be at the Funny Bone all weekend. Dad, and then he's got that like purgy voice and he's like, I'm hearing that you like wrestling. Is that true? I go, yeah, I love it. And he's like, when's the last time you watched it? And I was like, last night after the show, I watched SmackDown. What's up? And he's like, okay, so do you think it's real? And then I just went off on the guy. And I was like, what do you like? I bet I can find something that you like that I think is lame as hell. So what are we doing this for? You think you're going to make me not like wrestling? And watching, like barking him down was one of the most best feelings in the world of just a lifelong wrestling fan of like, shut up. You have a soul patch. Who are you to tell anybody? You look like a shit.
A soul patch.
Yeah, he had a soul patch. And you're like, to speak bad about anything I like is insane when you have that on your face. And yeah, it was just like a good moment. And like watching, and the guy was like, all right, sorry. And watching the producer be like, thank you. That you can just tell this guy just takes abuse for it all the time. And you're like, no, fuck that. Wrestling rules. I'm not going to not say that.
Is there a clip of this somewhere?
No, it was on terrestrial radio. But it was in Albany.
Okay, well,
I'll give away the city.
Okay.
But I remember that and like not like it was, I worked myself into a shoot because by the time I left the radio show, I was like, no, I don't want to talk to you. I was like, no, you went after wrestling too hard. I'm not cool with you.
I had a clip that went viral when I was a guest on a podcast. And the guy's like, you like wrestling?
I know.
You've seen it?
Yeah, I know which clip you're talking about.
Yeah, you Triple R or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like,
come on, dude. Don't do this.
Yeah.
And also,
do you like movies?
Yeah.
Oh, don't you know they're fake?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, but you still like them?
Oh,
That's
you know,
weird.
Superman he doesn't fly. That's all CGI.
Did you stand outside of the Broadway show Hamilton and go, you know, that guy's not actually Alexander
You're
Hamilton?
not Aaron Burr. Your response to that in that moment was like, that's the solution. You just go like, well, what do you like?
I just love the phrase, don't yuck other people's yums.
Yes.
So if you like it, great. If it is it hurting anybody? Okay.
You know,
cool.
It's an old school phrase we need to bring back. I don't care for it because it's not anything. You're just saying it's not for me. I don't really care for it.
Not my cup of tea.
Yeah. If I have a lot of friends that golf, I don't care for it. I stink at it. It makes me angry.
But you're probably not going to make fun of golf and
Oh,
try
hell
to
no.
belittle your friends for liking it.
Yeah, go golf. I think it's great. You guys love it. I'm not gonna shit all over it.
Yeah.
There's people that don't like stand-up comedy. I get that. We're like, so what? You just go up there and you like tell your little stories and you go, what the fuck do you do?
How miserable is that person have to be?
There are a lot of miserable people. There are a lot of miserable people that are like, oh, so are the stories even real? And you're like, yeah, they're based on truths, I guess. I don't know. What do you do? Do you break up hugs? What do you do? Do
you ever laugh?
Stop. Unclench your asshole. What kind of rabbit shits do you take that are little pellets? Open your butthole. Release a turd. Have fun. I've never understood that. I've never understood people that go out of their way. And it is ground zero is being a wrestling fan because it's the thing that everyone does. And you know this, and viewers at home know this. Oh, yeah, I used to love it. And then I stopped. And you go, cool.
Yeah.
What?
You should probably start watching it
Yeah,
again.
it's still really good.
It's pretty great.
You know what is really fun? Getting someone back into wrestling.
Yes.
I used to do a thing when I lived in Queens, and there would be a lot of comics that lived by me, is I would invite people over for the Royal Rumble, wrestling fan or not, and then everyone buys in and spends $5 a number. So you can buy up to 3 numbers, and then you do a hat, and you draw a number, and they get like the 13th wrestler or the 5th.
Yeah.
So, you know, when someone gets 27 in the Royal Rumble, you go, you son of a bitch, you might win it.
This is the wrestling version of doing squares for the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And it's
I love this.
so fun.
I'm stealing this.
It's great, because if you get number 1, you go, what, are they going to Ric Flair? No one Ric Flairs anymore. No one goes the full distance. But sometimes they go late, and the great part about wrestling is, even if you pull number 1, there's a moment where you go, this could happen. And then they go over the ropes, and you go, ah. And then, like, it's always funny when a non-wrestling fan wins the pot. Because they go, I like wrestling now. Counting like $200.
You know, like Cody Rhodes hasn't come out yet. And you're like, oh, there's only like a few numbers left.
Or specifically when I would do these, Roman Reigns. You would hear the Roman, and you'd be like, who got Roman?
The old Shield song.
When he was doing and you'd be like, and everyone would be like, and it'd just be one guy that's like, I got him. And you're like, you don't even know what this means. You're probably going to win, and we're going to riot. That's been my favorite thing, is watching Roman Reigns go from being a guy that everyone was like, enough, to everyone being like, I can't get enough. Yeah. I need more. The OTC, and you got to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
Paul Heyman, baby. You want to make someone a legendary. I was on the same flight as Paul Heyman. I was working the club in Winnipeg, and WWE had a show up there. This is when Brock was still touring. So Heyman was with Brock. And our flight was Winnipeg. There's no direct Winnipeg to New York. It went Winnipeg, Minneapolis, New York. And Heyman and I were on both the same flights. Didn't say anything the first flight. It was very early in the morning. In between flights, I went up to him and I was like, I just think you're like an elite manager and one of the greatest of all time. And he went, thank you. And that was all I needed from the Advocate. And I was just like, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. And it was like, you want to nerd out. You want to be like, can I ask you 20,000 questions? But you could just see it was like a guy traveling in the morning. But he looked great. You know what I mean? Heyman's the guy.
Yeah.
You look at his career. Paulie Dangerously, all the stuff, to giving Austin the confidence to talk in ECW and cut promos and become Stone Cold. Like, that confidence led to Stone Cold.
Yeah. And I feel like with Roman specifically, he made Roman believe in the character.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that Roman didn't believe in the big dog, but there was something about Roman turning heel and returning and everything about that gave him a whole fresh new outlook.
To wreck everyone and leave.
Yes.
That kind of like
the new teeth at that point.
Yeah, the sweet, when he was still getting his S's, but now he's got them. But it was like Heyman helped Roman add gravity, like this like heavy gravity to his character, where you watch his entrance and you go, the entrance is 15 minutes.
It's great.
And it's unbelievable. The ones in the air, that whole bloodline storyline. I mean, I loved it. And it was like adding Heyman with the promo where they opened, I think it was, I don't know if it was a Raw or SmackDown, and they're on that couch and it pans out and you got Heyman there and you're like, beautiful. Beautiful.
I can tell we're in a new era of wrestling right now, because not just fans coming back, but new fans.
Yeah.
I'm meeting so many new wrestling fans for the first time in probably since the Attitude Era.
Could you imagine fresh eyes on Bret Hart Stone Cold WrestleMania 12? Like putting that match on for someone that's never seen it and they go, well, he's got him in the sharpshooter and he's bleeding. What do you mean the match is over? And you go, yeah, he bled out. He bled out on the mat. And you're like, it's crazy. Just like showing him stuff. There was stuff, the Savage Bret Hart Saturday Night Main Event. You can watch it on WWE Vault, but watch specifically. There's a moment where Elizabeth is on the apron and there's a cracked egg rubbed into the mat. And you're like, what happened on that episode where there was just a cracked egg and then they just had the match? Like they didn't even, it's wild. It's like, I love little stuff like that. Yeah. Where you go, oh, they didn't even clean up that ring. But like, because I'm watching it with new eyes. I'm like, I obviously didn't watch it when I was 4. I don't remember that. But like going back and watching it and be like, they didn't even clean up the egg. I think that's what's great about being a new wrestling fan is you get to go back and watch stuff. The way, similarly to what I told you when I caught up on 03 to 08, where you're like, oh, dude, as an older fan, I got to appreciate 05 Shawn Michaels.
The best thing about your macho is you can talk about just ridiculous things. Yeah. Do you have an actual Macho Man promo that you know to a T?
There's two that I know, but I probably haven't done them in a while, so I'll butcher them. But they're both Steamboat promos, and it's the cup of coffee in the big time. Yeah, cup of coffee in the big time. That's Ricky Steamboat's cup of coffee in the big time. And I don't know where he goes from that. But then the other opening line is where he's like, I am the undisputed Intercontinental Heavyweight. I will remain the Intercontinental. That's the one line that I do know where he goes, I am the undisputed Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion, and I will remain the Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion. Yeah, dig it. And then obviously the one that I do know is the Gene Okerlund where he goes, a superstar in the WWF that has done seamlessly a 180. And you just hear, yeah, 180. And he goes, and then another 180. And he goes, another 180. And he comes in and he goes, and the beat goes on and the beat goes on. Yeah. That's the one promo. That was the one that I learned how to do the voice off of. Like watching that one.
That is brilliant.
The beat goes on and the beat goes on. And then it's always the grab of the, yeah, I'm understanding a little bit more and more. Yeah. I've become sentient. When I met him, it was awesome.
You met him?
Yeah. So during promoting the rap album, Be a Man.
Be a man, Hogan.
Yeah, be a man, Hulk. And then there's like just another rapper that's like, Macho Man and I hanging out. You're like, shut up. I used to work at this radio station in Tucson called it's still there, KFMA. And I went in to get my paycheck. My boss knew I was a huge wrestling fan. And he was like, you should go into Production Studio 1. And I was like, oh, you guys need me to do I'd do like silly voices and stuff for like the weekend promos. He's like, go see Chris. He's in Production Studio 1. You should go in there. And I was like, oh, okay. Like being kind of weird about it, but all right. And then there's like super heavy doors on these production studios. So I'm pushing the door open and I just hear, you're listening to Tucson's New Rock 92.1 and 101.3 KFMA. Oh, yeah. And I'm opening the door going, damn, dude, who's doing this? Macho Man. And I open it and it's Randy. Like with the mic, standing up with the voiceover mic, giving drops. And he had his glasses on, And it was, I think my buddy Sherm was doing it, my buddy who worked there. And he was like, oh, Randy, this is Dan. He works at the radio station. And he turned around with his glasses and he took them off and we made eye contact. And I remember just being like entranced. Like, I remember being like, oh my God, you're so intense. And he was like, very nice to meet you. And I was like, nice to meet you too. And he was like, I remember how big he was and just being like, it was like the picture when you see little kids meet Santa for the first time. We're like, and it shook his hand and, you know, we didn't have camera phones. So no one had a camera, couldn't get a picture. But
there's no picture of this?
No picture of it. I just met him and I was like, went outside stunned and smoked a cigarette. Like, and I didn't want to bother him because they were getting him to do drops for the radio station. But I was like, oh, dude, Macho Man.
Well, look, this is the closest I'll ever get to interviewing Macho Man.
Man, Conrad Thompson had an idea before Lanny Poffo died that he pitched me where we do like Lanny reaches out to Macho Man from the dead and he wanted me to do Macho Man. And I was like, I can't do that. As someone that's lost people in his life, I don't feel comfortable doing an accurate voice of someone that he was close to his brother. And Conrad was like, oh, that's fair. But I was like, when he pitched it, I was like, this is morbid as hell, dude. Being like, I miss you. Because if someone could do my dead sister's voice, I'd be like, hey, can you say I'm proud of you? It's like, I'm very proud of you. And then I'm calling him every night going like, I remember that when we were kids. I can't do this anymore, man. Yeah. But it was like having people that knew him say it was a good voice. Like when Bruce Pritchard told me I did a good Andre, I was like, that made me feel great. Where I was like, okay. It's still the most fun thing to do.
Good. Dude, thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for all of the laughs here. This is amazing.
I'm going to tell you, man, as a wrestling fan, you're doing awesome work. We love it. We love the interviews. It's great seeing these guys come on here and talk about stuff. You know, the Kurt Angle interview was great. I love when you have Karrion Kross on, when you had Ventura on, Sasso. It's just keep doing it, dude. This podcast is as a wrestling fan, A+. 5-star match. I'm giving it a 5-star.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll leave a 5-star rating on Apple and also on Spotify. You know that I will end every interview with the same question. So, first of all, what are 3 things Macho Man Randy Savage is grateful for?
Yeah, for baby oil. Yeah, for sunglasses and for Miss Elizabeth. Yeah, reunited and it feels so good.
And what are 3 things that you're grateful for?
Wrestling, stand-up comedy, and just the ability to be a fan of both.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's very fun. Yeah. It's just life doesn't always suck. There's some good stuff out there.
That's right.
And sometimes wrestling really helps turn the brain off and just enjoy. Just enjoy it, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, brother.